Well, new day, new verses. Let's dig in. 10 through 13. And that's not the only time. To Rebecca, also a promise was made that took priority over genetics. When she became pregnant by her one-of-a-kind ancestor, Isaac, and her babies were still in the womb, incapable of good or bad, she received a special assurance from God. What God did in this case made it perfectly plain that his purpose is not a hit or miss thing dependent on what we do or don't do, but a sure thing determined by his decision, flowing steadily from his initiative. God told Rebekah, the firstborn of your twins will take second place. Later, that turned into a stark epigram. I loved Jacob, I hated Esau. And I know once they're talking about that God does, if he says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. That's a matter of trust. As I've been thinking about this verse, though, well, these verses, I've been thinking back to the full story of Rebecca, Isaac, the birth of Jacob, whose name means heel, and Esau, technically, I think his name's Red. No, Harry. Yeah. But it struck me as kind of a curiosity in that, God promises that Jacob is going to take the first place, and I wonder if it had been done in trust, because Rebecca kind of tells Jacob, go do this, I'll make the food, go get fur, we'll fake it, basically. And I find myself wondering that if there were more communication, now we don't know if there was or wasn't, it strikes me for a moment that, because God is a God who works through promise, that there might be a deeper idea in here. That if God says to Rebecca, the firstborn of your twins will take second place, did she have to do any of that? What if the epigram, I love Jacob, I hated Esau, which breaks my heart on the idea of hating kids, but, it's like, well, have one, anyway. But no, it makes me wonder that if it was that kind of a stark divide, if even that couldn't have been remedied by trust in the Lord. Because God says the firstborn of your twins, and he says it in Genesis, that, Jacob is going to be over Esau. And I wonder, it's like, okay, then trust that. You wouldn't have to force it because God does it. And it strikes me as a beautiful thing that even though they do kind of force it by their own hand, that ends up putting Jacob through a world of pain in the tuchus. But it's kind of a pain that was his own making in a way. Like, trusting God, like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, it's this beauty that even when we decide to butt heads with God and go on our own way, he's still walking right alongside going, well, your heart beats for me, let's use this. Because God's promise to Rebekah is fulfilled, absolutely fulfilled, that Jacob takes place over Esau. When they tried to do it by their force, when they tried to do the garden thing, when they tried to do the force take, going to do it my way rather than receive, he ends up betraying his father's trust, betraying his brother's trust, and needing to go on the run to a different land. And yes, he does end up prospering and he, a lot of blessing because God's there with him. But so many trials and tribulations he went through because there wasn't trust in the first place. And it strikes me as a beautiful thing that whether we go the way he wants us to initially, or he walks with us through the series of injuries to follow when we try and do it our own way, that he's still there, our eternal Abba. And it's like, what if the epigram never needed to be made of I love Jacob and hated Esau? Because God loves all of his kids. If he didn't, why make us? It's always been my question. And granted, that does put a lot of the whole, you have to put trust in the Lord. But the more I think about what that looks like, the more I keep getting this image of a walk. And, I grew up in Utah, Rocky Mountain girl, and I grew up around a lot of greenery. I love to go hiking. And it's like, when you're a little kid, you like to run ahead on the walk, and you like to go off into the bushes and explore everything. But as you get to it, sometimes it's just about enjoying the beauty of the journey, enjoying the beauty of the creation, and just that moment of bliss as you walk. That there's no pretense, no game, no anything else. It's just the two people, the two entities moving together, or how many are there. And it strikes me that perhaps that's what relational trust looks like with God. That it's not about running ahead and getting into the bush and thickets and like ending up with poison ivy. What if it's about enjoying the walk, taking in the bounty and worshiping because we get to experience it? You know, I find myself thinking a lot about what a journey looks like, because it's different for each of us. And God will never leave us nor forsake us. That He's right there where He's always been, just waiting for us to reach out our hand to Him. So I wonder if it's not about trying to compare races or run against each other, especially since that idea of a race is already won. Jesus did it first, perfectly, that we see what we're supposed to look like in Him, at least in Matthew. And I find myself just thinking on Psalm 8 and Matthew 7. And I think that's what I might dig in a little more into tomorrow, just so this doesn't get befuddled any more than it already has from the verses of 10 through 13. But please, let me know in the bottom what you think about. Not just about in the idea of, did Rebecca have to force the promise to be fulfilled, or is God using the fact that she forced the promises to get what He said He would do done anyway? Or just, is there something else you get out of this? I'd love to know. Because the Word is meant to be studied. It's something we can dig into and learn about and just turn like a diamond. Let it read us and dig into. And I hope we can do that together. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow for 14 through 18. See you then.